I find I'm very uncomfortable with this video thing, so bear with me. While I was watching the presentations, I noticed that all of them seem to start in stage one, as you would expect. They all seem to be first sessions. At least that was the impression I got. The counselors were using nonverbal cues of relaxed posture, eye contact. They were obviously paying very good attention to the client. They all showed warmth and empathy, paraphrasing things back to the client, checking for understanding. I noticed in the video with the young man who had been in the car accident that the counselor, at one point leaned toward him and reached out and gave him a light touch on the hand or the wrist. I found that to be a kind of risky move for a first session. In some of my experiences with my clients, a lot of them don't like to be touched. And you don't really know that yet. So in a first session, although I'm sure that the counselor meant it to be, a show of empathy, and the young man seemed to receive it like that, I still thought it was kind of risky for a first session. I noticed some of the counselors used the silences just a little bit when the clients would stop, and they just let the silence go on just a tiny bit to encourage them. I find that usually happens more than what was represented in the presentations, especially reluctant clients. You're going to get a lot of hesitation. A lot of them don't even really know what they want to talk about. All of these clients seem to be very self-aware and very engaged and willing to participate. Not all of the clients I've worked with have been. So I find that if you allow the silences to go on just a little bit longer than we saw in some of the presentations, whereas in the presentations the counselors sort of jumped in and paraphrased or asked another question. A lot of times if you allow the silences to go on a little bit, you find that what you would have paraphrased or the question you would have asked would have led it off into a different direction than what the client would actually take it if you allowed them to just kind of gather their thoughts and continue on their own terms. I noticed that these clients were so involved and so willing to participate in the counseling session, and so self-aware that in a lot of cases they actually got a little bit into stage 2 of the counseling process, where they were developing backgrounds and coming up with things that they wanted to work on. The one young woman wanted to stop feeling responsible for everyone, and the young man realized that all of his stress and his anxiety was coming from the accident, and he wanted to work on that. In his case, he even gave a little bit of a hint of the frequency that he was having those problems and the intensity. I find you don't normally get there in the first session. Of course, a lot of my clients are not really willing participants. A lot of them for a lot of them, the counseling has been mandated. Either their parents are requiring them to do it, or in some cases the court has required them to do it, or it's a step down from staying in a mental hospital. So a lot of them, they're reluctant, and they're not going to give you the back history right away. You've got it from the files and stuff, but as far as getting it from the clients, they're not going to do that right away if they're reluctant to be there. So I find that it takes a lot longer to build up that rapport than it was shown in the presentations. But overall, I thought they were good representations of the kinds of skills that we're supposed to be using. To me, they obviously were set up as a teaching tool that didn't seem to be real sessions. So in that way, they did what they were supposed to do, I think. I think I would have liked to have seen how the counselor reacted to a slightly less receptive client.